God created everything for a purpose, but some islands make you question why. Today, we're diving into the weirdest islands ever discovered. Places so strange they seem unreal. From islands with eerie histories to places that defy logic, you won't believe these actually exist. And hey, I've pinned a question in the comments. Make sure to drop your answer and let me know what you think. Skull Island, Trunian, Bali. Hidden deep within Bali on the eastern edge of Lake Batur lies Trunian Village, better known as Skull Island. Unlike the rest of Bali, where cremation is the norm, the people here follow a chillingly unique funeral tradition. Instead of burning the dead, they place bodies in bamboo cages beneath a sacred tree, letting nature take its course. This tree isn't just any tree. It releases a natural fragrance that masks the smell of decay. Once the bodies fully decompose, their skulls and bones are carefully arranged on a stone altar, creating an eerie but sacred open-air graveyard. This ancient practice is a reflection of the Trunian people's deep spiritual connection with nature and their ancestors. The sacred tree stands as a symbol of their traditions, unchanged for centuries. Tourists are drawn to this island out of curiosity, but some believe that visiting Skull Island could bring bad luck, or worse. Superstitions aside, there's nothing truly dangerous about this place. It's not a cursed island. It's a glimpse into a world untouched by modernity. So if you ever find yourself in Bali, dare to visit and witness this hauntingly beautiful tradition for yourself. Socotra Island. This place feels like it was pulled straight from a fantasy movie. Socotra Island, hidden off the coast of Yemen, is home to the legendary Dragon's Blood Tree, an ancient tree that bleeds red. Its thick branches stretch out like an umbrella, casting eerie shadows over the alien landscape. But the real mystery lies in its crimson sap, which has been used for centuries as medicine, varnish, and even makeup. It's as if nature itself carved a relic from another world, and this island is the only place on Earth where these trees still stand. But their future is slipping away. Climate change and war on the mainland threaten this otherworldly sanctuary. As the world changes, so does Socotra, and no one knows how much longer these ancient trees will survive. For now, they remain silent, bleeding, and waiting. Vulcan Point, Philippines. This place is like something out of a movie, an island inside a lake, inside a volcano, inside another lake, all sitting on a bigger island in the Philippines. Sounds peaceful, right? Wrong. At the heart of it all is a deadly volcano that has erupted 33 times, making it the second most active in the country. It sits on the infamous Ring of Fire, a part of the Pacific known for violent earthquakes and explosive volcanoes. And this one? It's been a ticking time bomb for centuries. Since 1991, this volcano has been restless, waking up every now and then to remind everyone who's in charge. It took a short break after erupting in 1977, but history shows it's never quiet for long. Over the years, it has killed thousands, and when it erupted again in January 2020, it claimed 39 more lives and dried up the entire lake. That's the thing with volcanoes. You think you understand them, then boom. They change everything in an instant. Bouvet Island. Lost in the middle of nowhere, Bouvet Island is the most remote island in the world. This tiny volcanic landmass sits in the South Atlantic Ocean, over 1,400 miles from South Africa and nearly 1,000 miles from Antarctica. But don't expect warm beaches. This place is 93% covered in ice, with a massive crater at its center from an inactive volcano. The weather is brutal, making it impossible for humans to live there. But while people can't handle the cold, wildlife thrives. Penguins, seals, and seabirds rule this frozen kingdom, completely undisturbed by human presence. Bouvet Island's history is just as wild as its landscape. It was first spotted in 1739 by a French naval officer with the ridiculously long name Jean-Baptiste Charles Bouvet de Lozier. But after he mapped it, the island was somehow lost. Yes, actually lost, for nearly 100 years. Navigation wasn't easy back then. It was rediscovered in the 19th century, and in 1927, Norway officially claimed it. Today, it's a nature reserve, untouched and mysterious, standing alone in the vast ocean, as if the world simply forgot about it. The Forbidden Snake Island. You might think a hidden island off the coast of Brazil sounds like a dream vacation spot, but hold on, Snake Island is anything but paradise. This deadly place is completely off-limits to civilians, and for a terrifying reason. It's the only place on Earth where the golden lancehead viper lives, a snake so venomous that a single bite can kill a person in less than an hour. The island is crawling with them, so much so that in some areas there's one snake for every square meter. The Brazilian government had no choice but to ban visitors because stepping foot here is basically a death wish. But believe it or not, people once lived here. Back in the early 1900s, a lighthouse keeper and his family called this nightmare island home. They must have been incredibly careful, dodging snakes every step of the way. But their luck eventually ran out. One night, a swarm of these deadly vipers slithered into the lighthouse, biting every member of the family. By morning, not a single soul was left alive. The lighthouse still stands, but no one dares to live there now. Gaiola Island's curse, a tiny island off the coast of Naples, Italy, hides a dark secret. Gaiola Island may look like a peaceful paradise with its 2 rocky inlets connected by a narrow stone bridge. But don't be fooled. Locals whisper about the Gaiola curse, a string of terrible misfortunes that have plagued its owners. The island's eerie history goes back to Roman times when it housed a temple for Venus, the goddess of safe travel. Beneath its waters, ancient ruins still lie hidden. But things took a dark turn in the 19th century when a mysterious hermit, known as the Wizard, lived there. After he left, a grand villa was built, but that's when the real nightmares began. In the 1920s, the island's Swiss owner was found murdered. Soon after, his wife drowned. And it didn't stop there. One by one, the island's owners met tragic ends. Heart attacks, mysterious accidents, and family disasters followed every new buyer. The curse became so feared that no one dared to own it. Even today, the villa stands abandoned, a chilling reminder of its haunted past. Would you dare to set foot on Gaiola Island? Rabbit Island, Japan. This island looks like a scene from a fairy tale until you realize the truth. Okunoshima, also known as Rabbit Island, is home to thousands of wild bunnies. These fluffy creatures roam free because cats and dogs are banned and the rabbits are protected by law. With no predators around, they do what rabbits do best: multiply fast. Tourists love visiting this strange, adorable paradise, feeding the rabbits and even lying on the ground as the little hoppers swarm over them. But here's where it gets a little eerie. Imagine being surrounded by thousands of rabbits, their tiny paws tapping all around you, their eyes staring. Cute? Maybe. Or maybe it's the start of a horror story. The sheer number of them crawling over visitors feels straight out of a bizarre film. It's a mix of dream and nightmare, fluffy, overwhelming, and just a little unsettling. The lost giants of Rapa Nui, they stand like silent ghosts, watching over a land that has forgotten their voices. The Moai statues of Rapa Nui, what the world calls Easter Island, are more than just stone figures. Their name literally means statue, but their purpose runs deeper. Carved between 1000 BC and the 17th century, these massive heads were built to honor ancestors, growing larger and more complex over time. Nearly 900 were created, mostly from volcanic rock, while a rare few were carved from the much harder basalt. But their watch over the island was not eternal. When Europeans arrived in 1838, everything changed. The Moai were toppled, the island's society crumbled, and with it, the stories of Rapa Nui began to vanish. Their history was never written, only spoken, so when the people faded, so did their secrets. Now, the Moai stand as the last remnants of a lost world, their stone faces hiding answers we may never know. Palmyra Island. This island looks like a perfect tropical getaway. Clear blue waters, lush green jungle, and untouched beauty. But beneath this paradise hides something much darker. For centuries, strange and terrifying events have taken place here. In 1816, a pirate ship called Esperanza crashed on the island. The desperate crew buried their treasure and built rafts, but only one man made it out alive. The rest vanished without a trace. Decades later, in 1870, another ship, the Angel, wrecked here. When rescuers arrived months later, they found the crew's bodies brutally scattered across the island. No one ever figured out what happened. During World War II, the US Navy took over Palmyra, but even they couldn't escape its eerie curse. A patrol plane vanished into thin air above the island. No wreckage, no bodies, nothing. Another aircraft flew off course and disappeared forever. Soldiers stationed there reported strange deaths, suicides, and unexplained violence. Years later, a couple visiting the island went missing. Eventually, the woman's bones were found stuffed inside a container, but her husband was never seen again. To this day, no one knows why Palmyra Island seems to swallow people whole. Island of the Dolls. Deep in the canals of Mexico, there's an island unlike any other. A man named Don Julian Santana Barrera once lived there, completely isolated. One day he had a heartbreaking discovery, a young girl's body in the water. Not long after, a doll floated to the shore. Some say this moment shattered his mind, while others believe he was already losing his grip on reality. Either way, he became obsessed with collecting dolls, hanging them from trees all over the island. Over time, the place turned into a haunting sight, hundreds of broken, decayed dolls staring lifelessly from the branches. To outsiders, the island is terrifying, a nightmare of cracked faces and hollow eyes. But to Don Julian, these dolls were guardians, watching over him. He never cleaned them, never repaired them, just kept adding more. But his eerie paradise had a tragic ending. Years later, Don Julian was found drowned in the same spot where he believed the girl had died, as if the island had claimed him too. Christmas Island. You might think Christmas Island is a place full of Santa and snow, but it's actually a wild tropical island in the Indian Ocean, about 100 to 500 kilometers west of Australia. This place is famous for its rare birds and millions of red crabs that take over the land every year. But life here wasn't always peaceful. In the 19th century, people discovered phosphate and mining took over. The island's natural beauty was pushed aside for business, and things got even worse during World War II. In 1942, the Japanese invaded, imprisoning Europeans and hunting down Malay and Chinese workers. A year later, half the island's population was sent to prison camps in Indonesia. After years of struggle, things finally started to change in the 1970s. The mining workers fought for their rights, and their terrible working conditions began to improve. But the biggest shift came in 1980, when a huge part of the island was turned into a national park, protecting its incredible wildlife. Today, Christmas Island is still remote and wild, but now it's a place where nature is finally allowed to thrive. The Forgotten Isles of Fire, hidden in the Pacific, the Izu Islands aren't just another tropical escape, they're the scars of ancient volcanoes, still shaping the land today. For centuries, these islands weren't a paradise, but a prison. Back in Japan's Edo period, convicts were exiled here, forced to live on these isolated shores. But long before that, humans had already called these islands home for thousands of years, leaving behind traces of a past now buried beneath ash and time. But the islands hold more than just history. They're filled with myths and fire. Kushima Island is said to be where the island gods once gathered at the peak of Mount Tenno. But today, it's the volcanoes that rule. Mount Mahara, standing tall on Oshima Island, has erupted more than once, with its last big explosion in 1986. The result? A land of steaming hot springs and surreal landscapes, now drawing in curious travelers eager to walk where fire and legends meet. Poveglia Island. This island isn't just abandoned, it's feared. Just half a mile from Venice, Poveglia Island looks like a dream with its old buildings and prime location, but no one dares to go there. Why? Because its past is filled with horror. Between 1793 and 1814, it was a quarantine station for plague victims. Later, it became a mental hospital where, according to chilling stories, a doctor tortured patients and threw them off the bell tower. The hospital shut down in 1968, but the terror never left. The numbers alone are terrifying. Some say 160,000 people died here, their bodies buried on the island. If that's true, half of the island's soil is made of human remains. That's not just disturbing, it's horrifying. Locals stay away, and visitors aren't allowed. But honestly, would you ever want to set foot on an island where the ground itself holds the echoes of so much suffering? The Forbidden Island of North Sentinel. You won't believe this, but there's an island where outsiders are met with arrows the moment they get too close. North Sentinel Island, deep in the Indian Ocean, is home to one of the most isolated tribes on Earth, the Sentinelese. They've lived there for around 55,000 years, completely cut off from the modern world, and they want to keep it that way. Anyone who dares to step foot on their land is immediately attacked. Sounds extreme, right? But history has shown that contact with the outside world has been deadly for similar tribes. Nearby island populations were wiped out by diseases brought by foreigners, and the Sentinelese know that even a simple cold could be a death sentence for them. But that didn't stop invaders from trying. Back in 1880, a British expedition landed on the island, only to find the village abandoned. The tribe had vanished into the jungle. They did find an elderly couple and some children, and in true colonial fashion, they kidnapped them for scientific research. The older captives quickly died from disease, and the terrified children were sent back, but who knows what they carried with them. After that, the tribe became even more hostile. In the 1970s and 80s, people tried leaving gifts on the beach, but the Sentinelese either ignored them or buried them. It took decades, but the world has finally realized maybe the best thing to do is leave them alone. Deer Island. Once, Deer Island stood alone in Boston Harbor, but a hurricane in 1938 changed everything. The storm wiped away the beach, separating it from the mainland, turning it into a peninsula. But here's the twist. This so-called island isn't some paradise getaway. Instead, it's famous for something far less glamorous: a massive wastewater treatment plant. Yeah, that's right. If you've ever wondered where Boston's sewage goes, well, this is the place. But Deer Island wasn't always about sludge and pipes. Long ago, indigenous people lived here. Later, it became a quarantine site for immigrants, a military base, and even a prison housing thousands of inmates. Now, it's home to 12 giant sludge digesters, huge tanks that process, well, the stuff you'd rather not think about. But if you can handle the smell, the island does offer some pretty nice views of Boston's North Shore and the harbor's other islands. Just breathe through your mouth. The floating islands of Lake Titicaca. You won't believe this. Lake Titicaca isn't just the world's highest navigable lake. It's also home to something straight out of a dream: floating islands. Yes, you heard that right. These aren't just any islands. They're handmade by the Uros people using a special water plant called Totora reeds. For centuries, they've woven these reeds together to create islands sturdy enough to hold homes, schools, and even watchtowers. But here's the craziest part. The islands aren't fixed. They can be moved or even disappear when the people decide to relocate. The Uros people have lived this way for generations, sticking to their ancient traditions while still welcoming some modern touches like motorboats and solar panels. But today, their floating world isn't just a home, it's a tourist attraction. Travelers from all over come to see this unique way of life, and the Uros have adapted, blending their traditions with the curiosity of outsiders. So while Lake Titicaca might have a name that makes you chuckle, the secrets it holds will leave you amazed. Tristan da Cunha. This is not just any island, it's the most remote inhabited place on the planet. Tristan da Cunha sits in the middle of the South Atlantic, over 2,700 kilometers from South Africa and 3,700 kilometers from South America. Its isolation has created a stunning world of wildlife. The ocean here is alive with blue sharks, short-fin mako sharks, and even giant whales like humpbacks and sperm whales. Dolphins race through the waves, and the skies belong to albatrosses. On land, thousands of penguins and 300,000 fur seals make this place their home. But the people here don't just live with nature, they protect it. In 2020, the island's residents and government made a historic decision. They created the world's largest marine protection zone, covering 700,000 square kilometers. This isn't just about keeping their island safe, it's about preserving one of the last untouched ecosystems on Earth. The island of gas masks, a place where people carry gas masks just to survive? Yes, that's Miyakojima, a volcanic island in Japan's Izu archipelago. This isn't just any island, it sits right on top of Mount Oyama, a volcano that refuses to stay quiet. Big eruptions have been recorded for centuries, with deadly lava flows in 1940 and a shocking eruption in 1983 after 21 years of silence. But the most devastating one hit in 2000 when Mount Oyama erupted multiple times, forcing over 4,000 people to flee. The real nightmare wasn't just the explosions, it was the air itself. The eruptions pumped so much sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere that the island became unlivable. For nearly 5 years, no one was allowed to return. And even when they did in 2015, the danger wasn't over. The air was still toxic, and every resident had to carry a gas mask at all times. Imagine living in a place where the very air you breathe could turn against you. Kagari, the Lost Paradise, a hidden paradise unlike any other. Kagari, also known as Fraser Island, is the world's largest sand island, stretching over 120 kilometers along Australia's eastern coast. Its name, given by the indigenous Bachula people, means paradise, and for good reason. According to their legend, a beautiful spirit named Kari helped shape the land and was rewarded by being transformed into the island itself. The Bachula people lived in harmony with nature for centuries. But everything changed in the 19th century when European settlers arrived. They were forced off their land, while logging and sand mining took a devastating toll on the island's pristine environment. But the story doesn't end there. In recent years, efforts have been made to restore Kari's indigenous heritage and protect its fragile ecosystem. This breathtaking island is home to towering ancient dunes, lush rainforests that grow directly from the sand, and over 100 crystal-clear freshwater lakes. Wildlife thrives here, hundreds of bird species, countless reptiles, and even one of Australia's purest dingo populations. Today, it's a protected treasure and a top travel destination, drawing in more than 500,000 visitors every year. Kagari is more than just an island. It's a legend, a sanctuary, and a reminder of nature's resilience. Devon Island. This place looks like another planet. Devon Island in Canada is the biggest uninhabited island in the entire world. No one lives here, and for good reason. It's a frozen, unforgiving land in the Arctic. Sitting in Baffin Bay, this island is part of Canada's wild and icy Arctic archipelago. Long before European settlers arrived, the Inuit peoples survived in these extreme conditions, proving just how tough they are. But today, the island stands empty, covered in ice and rock, untouched by civilization. Some people call it Mars on Earth, and they're not wrong. The landscape is dry, lifeless, and looks straight out of a sci-fi movie. It's mostly a polar desert with brutal cold and harsh winds all year round. NASA even tests Mars rovers here because it's so similar to the Red Planet. The world is full of strange places, but these islands might be the weirdest of them all. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the pinned question. I can't wait to see your answers.